Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua, Judges, Ruth, 1st and 2nd Samuel, 1st and 2nd Kings, 1st and 2nd Chronicles, Ezra, Nehemiah, Esther, and Job. Psalms and Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Song of Solomon, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Lamentations, Ezekiel, Daniel, and Hosea. Joel and Amos, Obadiah, Jonah, Micah, Nahum, Habakkuk, Zephaniah, Haggai, Zechariah, Malachi. These are the books of the Bible, the wonderful books of the Bible. These are the books of the Bible, the wonderful books of the Bible.
Alrighty, hello Desert Breeze kids and families. I hope this online lesson finds you well. Today's big idea is God gives unexplainable joy. God gives unexplainable joy. Now, that word joy, and often another word, happiness or happy, is used often very similar at times. But did you know that there is a difference? Happiness is tied more to a circumstance, maybe an event or an object or a person. Whereas joy is an attitude we can have in our hearts no matter what is happening around us, no matter what. And for followers of Christ, our true joy comes from God. And we see that in today's Bible story of how now King David does a behavior that's, for some, maybe not as kingly. So you'll get to see how he shows his joy in his relationship with God. So stay tuned and let's roll that clip of our Bible story for today.
It's time for our Bible story. It comes from the book of 2 Samuel in the Old Testament, a long time ago. Because no one could see God, God had to be with the people in ways humans could understand. The Ark of the Covenant was one of those ways. What is the Ark of the Covenant? Well, think of like a big treasure chest, except instead of holding gold coins and gems, it was the place where God would come to meet with people. The people who respected and valued the Ark often grew and experienced God's power in their own lives. As you can imagine, the Ark needed to be handled with care. And unfortunately, it wasn't. This caused sadness and confusion with God's people. King David even thought that maybe it was best to keep the Ark far away from him. But then he saw that God had blessed the home where the Ark had been placed in the meanwhile. He realized that being in God's presence was the greatest treasure. So he changed his mind and decided to bring the Ark into the main city where he was. As David saw the Ark enter the city, he was filled with such joy that he started to dance. He jumped, he twirled, he did the cha-cha-cha, he flossed, he dabbed, he did the whoa. He shook his body like no one was watching, but everyone was watching. And he was the king. This was unusual. King David's wife saw this and was embarrassed, but David didn't care. He couldn't help it. He was in the very presence of God again. And as he danced the day away, everyone knew that God gives unexplainable joy.
Alrighty, so our story was found in 2 Samuel chapter 6, verses 1 through 19. So this thought of unexplainable joy, and David showed that to all those around him, to the point where some people thought it was unusual. I can remember a time where for me that joy, where people thought I was maybe a little bit crazy as well. Because remember, joy is not based on our circumstances. Even when things may not be going well, there's still that contentment there's still that hope, there's that smile, that things are still in God's control. I remember a time when I was at camp over a summertime, and I remember I was one of the leaders, and I just was not feeling well, and I wound up hurting myself as well on accident, and just things seemed to not be going well. We even forgot some things. But I still remember, God, it's in your hands, and I still remember smiling and praying to God that night. And the next day, things wound up being okay, felt better, and God just worked a great work at that camp that week. Now, that's that unexplainable joy. And I remember people coming to me afterwards be like, Bradley, how are you still so happy? I had to remind him, first off, it's not happiness, it's joy. It's like, because it's all about God and what He has given us, not the other way around. And that's where I found my source of joy. Now, I would encourage you guys to remember, if following Christ, that should be our source of joy as well, is what God has done for us. And we should go show that to everyone else. And that's actually the challenge as well, to think about someone who just maybe needs to have some of that joy around, and go show that joy to others. Maybe it's doing an action as well. Maybe it's going all out singing in worship. Maybe it's doing something kind to show the joy that's inside you. Whatever it may be, show that joy to others, and to the point where they may ask, hey, why are you so joyful? Not happy, but joyful. And that's an opportunity to say, because God lives inside me, and I have a relationship with Him. So that's the challenge for today. Let's see how our friend Crazy Carl is doing with the big idea for today. So let's roll that clip.
So, Carl,
Yes, Andy?
what are you doing?
Nothing. I'm doing absolutely nothing.
Yeah, I can see that. What's with the box?
Box? Oh, no, what box? No, this box. It's not, it's just a normal box, Andy.
So can I hold it?
No! Okay, I'm sorry, but I'm just trying to be really careful because this box is different than any other box. It's unusual to find some so rare.
All right, no problem. So what's so unusual about it?
Well, I care about this box, and I found something that I never thought I would.
Well, you're not talking about the crazy egg, are you?
Yeah, I got the crazy egg. Everybody knows that a box of eggs comes with 12 eggs in it. But every once in a while, you'll find one that has an extra egg. A 13th egg. A crazy egg. Crazy egg.
Wow, Carl, that's amazing. You must be so happy.
Yeah, so happy. I'm so happy.
Carl, you seem kind of stressed.
What? Me stressed? No, why would you say that?
Well, you're doing your stressed out voice where your voice gets all high and loud.
What are you talking about? I don't have a stressed out voice. Okay, yeah, maybe I'm a little stressed, but I've always wanted a crazy egg and now I have it, but
But what?
now I'm afraid of losing it or something bad happening to it.
Oh, I guess that makes sense. So what do you say we jump into today's story?
I suppose. What are we talking about?
Well, believe it or not, we're talking about King David again, but this time it involves a special type of box.
A box like this?
Not exactly. This particular box was made of wood and it was beautifully designed. They actually called it the Ark of the Covenant, and it was created to hold really important things in the Old Testament.
What kind of things?
Things that would remind the people of what God had done, like the tablets that the Ten Commandments were written on, or a jar of manna.
Is that the special food that God rained down from the sky for the Israelites to eat? From when they were walking the wilderness and stuff?
That's the one. And also the rod that Moses' brother Aaron used that budded leaves, even though it was a dead piece of wood.
Wow, that stuff really is important. So what does that have to do with King David?
Well, having the Ark of the Covenant in your town was something everyone wanted, especially David.
Why did everyone want it?
Well, what made the Ark of the Covenant really special is that it was a symbol of God's presence.
Wait, God was in the box?
Sort of. It was a place where people could come and meet with God. That's why having it with you was such a big deal.
I can imagine. Well, who had the ark?
Well, David and his men came and got the ark from a place called Bela, and they brought it back to Israel.
Nice. I bet they were nervous like me, huh? Holding on to the ark, protecting it, trying to make sure nothing bad happened to it.
Not really.
I mean, the Ark of the Covenant is so important. You gotta take care of it.
Yes, it is serious, but bringing home the Ark of the Covenant was a very happy thing for David and the people of Israel.
Really?
Of course, this box had so much history and meant so much to the people of Israel. I mean, it was one way of really knowing that God was with them.
Wow, that was really cool.
You bet it is. David was so happy that he began to dance and everyone started playing instruments.
Wait a minute. David was dancing, right?
Yeah?
But it said he was dancing in his underwear.
What, you've never done that?
Not in front of a bunch of people like that, Andy.
Fair enough. But at that moment, David didn't care what he was wearing or who was watching. He was just so happy and filled with joy.
Joy?
Of course, David finally brought back the Ark of the Covenant to God's people. That meant so much to David, and he could not contain it.
I know how that goes. Sometimes I feel like I'm just gonna burst and I don't get all my feelings out. But I don't think everyone gets me.
You know what? David experienced that too. Some people thought that the highest ruler in all of the land should not be behaving in such an unusual way. But David let them know that his joy came from the Lord and he couldn't hide it.
Well, good for David. Why should he? Well, after listening to this story, I think it's obvious that God gives unexplainable joy.
Carl, you know what gives me joy?
Silly cat videos on YouTube?
No, you said our big idea. Today's big idea is God gives unexplainable joy.
So let's say it out loud on the count of 3.
1, 2, 3.
God gives unexplainable joy! Yeah! Oh yeah!
Thank you so much for joining us today. Let's review our verse for these next 2 weeks. It's from Isaiah 55:8. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. Isaiah 55:8. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. Isaiah 55:8. Once again, thank you so much for joining us, DB Kids and Families. If ever you want to get to know more about DB Kids Ministry, go to www.dbkids.org and stay tuned for the same time, same place next week. Hope you guys have a good one.